Okay. We're good on our side, Clerk. Thank you. This meeting of Community Affairs and Planning Committee is being held in hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants to please use their microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. To those making submissions as part of a public meeting, please ensure you sign in using the sheet available at the accessible lectern to preserve rights available to you under the Planning Act or other applicable legislation. I will now call this meeting to order. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Any members of committee have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, could I get someone to move the adoption of minutes? I see Councillor Bauer, and we'll call the vote. That passes, thank you. So we are now on to the public meeting portion. This is PDS 2025-20. Ajax Official Plan Review Project Launch. Director Romanowski, did you want to set the table for us?
Thank you, Chair Lee. Yes, today we'll be hearing a presentation from Sean McCullough on kicking off our official plan review. This is the first step in our OP review. It's more just to inform council and committee of the journey we're about to embark on for the OP review. So I will turn it over to Sean McCullough, who's joining us online today to provide the presentation.
Mr. McCullough, do you want to request to speak? And I'll get you in from there. Sean, are you there? There you are.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
We can hear you now, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just gonna get organized, and can everyone see my presentation?
Sorry, yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening, members of the committee. And as you know, my name is Sean McCullough. I'm the Supervisor of Planning Policy and Research here at the town of Ajax. And I apologize for not being in person. I'm just a little bit under the weather, but I prefer typically to do these in person. I'm joined today with one of our new senior planners, Scott McLeod, who should also be in attendance at the meeting today. And we are excited today to present Ajax, our future in focus. And this is the official launch of the Ajax Official Plan Review. Today's presentation is an overview of the project and is also part of our consultation strategy to help to inform the community. Now, Mr. Chair, I do expect my presentation to be approximately 15 minutes. I'd ask the committee for additional time if that's okay.
Mr. McCullough, we're just going to give you the 15. Go right ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry, did the slide change there?
Are we changing the slide on our side, clerk? No, we're still in the cover.
How about that?
No.
It's okay, I'm just going to try to reshare one more time.
If not, do you also want to email the clerks the presentation? Because I think we can broadcast from our side, right?
Is that changing yet?
It is not. Is it a large file? Can we email it to clerks?
Clerk should have it. We worked it out before. Let me just try one more time if possible. Mr. Clerk, sorry, I'm just going to ask permission to share one more time.
Sure.
All right, and we will try now.
Yep, we have the agenda slide now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So thank you again. And there is an agenda, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip over it. So the purpose of the meeting today is to officially launch AJAX, Our Future in Focus, provide information on what an official plan is, introduce council to the project work plan and the consultation strategy, hold a special statutory meeting, which is required under the Planning Act. And it's a special meeting just because this is an additional statutory meeting than would otherwise be required for an individual official plan amendment. And finally, kickstart the conversation today as the first step of many consultation opportunities and is intended to talk and identify what we would want to look at through this process. Often council is put in a tough position of making decisions, but today let's try to make it fun and have a bit of a conversation instead. So first, what is an official plan? I know that council understands this, but it's important to highlight it to the community. So an official plan is a statutory planning document authorized under the Planning Act that guides decision-making on growth for the next 25 to 30 years. It sets a strategic vision for the community by establishing goals, objectives, and policies related to residential uses, employment areas, strategic growth areas, environmental protection and climate change, cultural heritage protection, transportation systems and parking, and many other strategic objectives. Decisions of council and documents such as the zoning bylaw must comply with the policies of the official plan. The official plan also can give the town the authority to utilize tools outlined in the Planning Act, such as parkland dedication, inclusionary zoning, among many others. It also establishes minimum requirements for development applications. The Planning Act requires that the official plans be reviewed every 5 years or 10 years after a new official plan is approved. This is to bring the official plan into conformity with provincial and regional planning documents and legislative changes. It also serves as an opportunity to identify issues and explore best practices. The town's last official plan review ended in 2014 with approval issued by the Ontario Municipal Board. Given the significant changes across the provincial planning landscape over the last 10 years, and with the region's official plan only approved late last year, staff postponed the start of this official plan review to try to allow the dust to settle. We're now in a good position to move forward. And then finally, we've also received a letter from the ministry encouraging the town to get started on this project as we are one of the large and fast-growing municipalities. In 2024, the town was awarded $22 million under the Housing Accelerator Fund by the federal government. CMHC administers the HAF program, which is to encourage local initiatives to build more housing faster. One initiative is for the town to complete our official plan review, specifically the growth management component, which deals with population and allocation of housing policy. And this is to be completed by mid-2027. Another initiative is the Ajax GO Station secondary plan, which we need to complete by September 2026, and I'll get into this a bit later. So the goals for this project are to align the official plan with provincial plans, policies, and regulations, combine the regions and towns' official plans into a single document, allocate growth to strategic growth areas, corridors, and nodes, assess and protect employment areas, promote sustainable development and update environmental policies, review implementation policies, identified issues and general housekeeping matters, as well as explore council motions and direction. One of the biggest goals for this project is to plan to 2051. By 2051, the town is projected to grow to a population of almost 200,000, with just over 71,000 households and almost 62,000 jobs. The province has also assigned a target of 17,000 new housing units by 2031. With most of the town's greenfield lands already developed, we need to transition towards intensification to plan for a little more than 60,000 new residents. Now, to complete the official plan review, this is a high level, but we plan to complete it generally across 4 phases. Phase 1 includes background research and an assessment of our current policy framework against provincial plans and legislation, and the new regional official plan. There will also be discussion briefs to ignite discussion. Phase 2 includes initial policy recommendations and discussions. Where secondary plans are proposed, land use options would also be presented during the Phase 2. Phase 3 will see the creation of a draft amendment and the completion of the required statutory public meetings, and then finally bringing the amendments forward to adoption by council in Phase 4. The town will also require the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as they are now our approval authority. This is a role that was historically held by the Region of Durham, who is now an upper tier planning authority with upper tier municipality without planning authority. Staff plan to complete a series of amendments, some of which are being prioritized to meet half commitments, and as a result, timelines may differ slightly for each theme, which I'll go over next. So the 6 themes that we're exploring is the growth management policy review, and this will examine the planned population and housing unit growth, housing policy, and things like height and density permissions. The commercial and employment land strategy will examine the forecast employment growth, the town's employment lands, and commercial needs townwide. The general and cultural heritage policy review will cover cultural heritage and some of the built form policies, study requirements, our implementation policies, and other general housekeeping matters. The climate, resilience, and natural heritage policy will explore climate change and environmental protection policies, as well as our greenland systems, which includes rural areas and agricultural policies. Transportation policies are planned to be examined through the town's integrated transportation master plan, which will be completed at a future date by the town's transportation section. And then finally, we have a series of secondary plans and planning study areas, which we hope to be completed. I will discuss the GO station shortly, but we're also hoping to complete a secondary plan for Uptown Ajax, update land use designations for the area along Harwood Avenue North that were converted from the employment area during the MCR, and prepare block plans for Ajax and Harwood plazas in the downtown. And all of this will be subject to the contract award. So I'll quickly touch on the GO Station secondary plan, as this is a separate project, but I do want to highlight the project to build engagement and encourage residents to get involved. So work on the Ajax GO Station secondary plan started in March of this year, and SGL Planning and Design was hired to assist the town. So as I mentioned, this is a half initiative, and the scope of work is slightly larger than the official plan review. Both an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment are planned to be completed by September 2026. There will also be a placemaking plan and urban design guidelines prepared to help guide development in the area. Now, more on this project will be released in October of this year. And in the meantime, we're encouraging everyone to visit the IMO page to complete the visioning survey that will be available until this Friday, September 5th. Now, as for consultation is a very important part of this project, and we hope to try to reach residents who normally may not participate in this type of project. So this will include reaching out to both students and seniors, diverse individuals, and equity groups, among many others. Our objectives are to raise awareness of the importance and purpose of the official plan, facilitate meaningful input from all members of the public, stakeholders, and partners, ensure participation is accessible and inclusive, build consensus on long-term planning goals, conduct respectful and meaningful dialogue with our Indigenous communities, and achieve our statutory requirements. So we plan to utilize many different techniques to try to reach as many people as possible. So there's the usual IMO page and our social media outreach. There'll be a mix of in-person and virtual open houses at all major milestones. There'll be pop-up events and booths at public gatherings, presentations at committee and ward meetings, providing school information and outreach sessions, articles in department and council newsletters, We're working to create an Indigenous advisory group and utilizing posters, videos, and signs. And we'll also be conducting one-on-one meetings with members of council. Now, over the years, staff have identified or have been asked to look at various issues and topics. Now, attachment 1 with the staff report includes some of these topics and more of an overview of them. But at a high level, as I mentioned, we're looking at provincial plan conformity and integration of the Durham Region official plan, review of maximum permitted heights and densities, taking a look at alternatives to the 45-degree angular plane and urban design policies, examining existing OP deferrals and official plan amendment applications, evaluate employment areas and implement the new Planning Act definition, exploring minimum job densities, as well as minimum commercial gross floor area requirements in mixed-use buildings, updating land use designations for lands converted from the employment area during the municipal comprehensive review, reviewing our complete application requirements and our implementation policies, among many others. Council has also passed various motions to examine matters, and we've identified those as well. So these include prohibiting new public storage facilities, gas stations, and car washes. The STRAT plan identifies completing an Ajax Plaza master plan. There was a motion to reduce parking for additional dwelling units. Now that portion's been completed, but it also directed staff to look at reducing parking along transit routes. And then there's the usual items like short-term rentals and home-based businesses that typically come up. There are also many Ajax plans and strategies that have a number of recommendations in them, and we will review those to see which recommendations need to be incorporated into the official plan. So these include things like the Ajax Housing Strategy and Action Plan, Recreation and Parks Master Plan, Ajax Arts and Culture Master Plan, the Ajax Green Standard, the Ajax Climate Risk and Resiliency Plan, and the Library Master Plan, among others. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the meeting today is to start the discussion, ask council and residents what we should be looking at. I've included some questions in the staff report to help ignite thought, and some of these include, what do you want the town to look like in 2051? What technology or emerging trends will influence how the town is shaped between now and 2051? How can the town maximize good employment and housing opportunities? How does the town protect and restore the environment? And how does it create a community that responds to the climate crisis? What does successful consultation look like? And how do we create a community where everyone can live, work, and play? Now, finally, before we jump into the discussion, just some of the next steps. So internal background research and work is underway by staff, but we continue to select we're working to select a consultant and finalize the contract, which we hope to complete by the end of this month or early next month. We're also working to establish the Indigenous Advisory Group and starts to expand on those relationships that we feel will be important during this process. And as mentioned earlier, the first work that you'll see will be in October in relation to the Ajax Ghost Station secondary plan, and we hope that this will be an exciting conversation. In the meantime, residents and interested parties can visit the IMO page or email opreview@ajax.ca to register for updates and or submit comments. And then finally, I will highlight that written comments that were received prior to the meeting have been provided to council, and they will be added to our consultation record as we move forward. And then towards the end, we always identify all the comments we received and provide responses as we move through this process. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Before we open up to the public, from committee, any questions on the presentation? Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you. I just want to know what when it says here in the report, the more detailed report, the new official plan as a result, the ministry will be consulted throughout this exercise as their approval will be required. So I don't know if you can speak to it just very quickly, how that might look when we get into this consultation with council and in public, if we line up goals and, are we going to present it to them weekly or monthly? Get our hearts broke, or, how's that going to work? Do we know how that might work, Sean? Or sorry, Mr. McCullough.
So through the chair to Councillor Tyler Moore, so that's a great question. So they require that before an amendment is adopted by council, there are minimum timelines that we have to submit drafts of those amendments to the ministry. However, as you mentioned, so that we don't get our hearts broken, we do plan to, at all major milestones, send them all of our background documents as we're moving forward this process and ask for their feedback along the way, just so that we can make sure that we're on the right track. And today we've contacted them already, for example, just making sure that we're consulting with the Indigenous communities that they would expect us to, just to start that conversation.
Okay, I'll just leave that. It's very mindful because we can get excited about things. Okay, thank you for your answer. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McCullough, before we go on, your microphone brushes against your collar and then creates a bit of feedback. If we can just kind of just adjust for that, that'd be great. Councillor Henry, we have you next.
Thank you. Quick question with regards to the Indigenous communities. I've seen all the information in the report, and I just want to reiterate and make sure that we have shared our timelines and given the data that they've requested. I've noticed that there was a fee agreement also in place, so all that has been resolved, and we've given them everything that they've asked for, correct?
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, it's still early days in establishing our advisory group. So we still haven't finalized all of our timelines yet. As I mentioned in my presentation, we're still working to select our consultants, but we are working towards a meeting in September, October with the Indigenous communities as an early listening exercise and understanding what their priorities and their requirements are. So through that, we will identify what they require to review and or what their interests are and make sure that we're providing them the information that they need. The agreement we've already established, we had initially completed that as part of the comprehensive zoning bylaw review, but we were able to work in the official plan review project into that initial agreement, just so that we can reduce the timeline associated with completing those agreements.
Excellent. I just want to make sure that they're not left behind because I realized that prior to, I think it was the comprehensive zoning bylaw review where there was some lag time in which we couldn't communicate with them. We weren't getting the feedback, and I just want to make sure that they have ample opportunity in which to be part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Lee. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. McCullough. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I'm glad this is happening. I think it's going to be very informative and learning for everyone. So my only comment, and I think you've touched on it many times actually through the presentation, is about the opportunity for public input and consultation. And I see in our agenda package there is an attachment with a preliminary consultation strategy. Thank you for that. Can you, is it too early to sort of outline how many touch points do you expect to have with the public and how much opportunity that there will be for them to comment?
So through the chair to Councillor Bauer, so it's too early to identify all of the touch points, but I can at a high level identify what we're planning at this time. So at the end of phase 1, we're hoping to release, there'll be discussion papers as well as these discussion briefs, which we hope will be these short 2 to 3 page documents that touch on a specific topic that we think will be of interest to the community and try to ignite discussion that way. And then look to hold some open houses so that we can identify what we know so far and obtain feedback. And then once we get to phase 2, that's where we're doing policy recommendations. So again, we would look to complete open houses for each of the themes and to produce engagement that way. And then once we get to phase 3, that's where there's the statutory public meetings. Now, those are the major pieces. But as I mentioned in the presentation, and as you'll see in the consultation strategy, we're hoping to complete a lot of other type of engagement activities that are somewhat unusual for us. There's the pop-up ones, which I think are typical, and we try to attend events. With the comprehensive zoning bylaw review, we went to the farmers markets. So we'll be looking for opportunities as we move forward. And then some of the other new ones that we're hoping to do is going into the schools. There might be opportunities to connect with some of the religious organizations and try to meet people where they are, so that we can try to get more feedback throughout this process.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. That was my only question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Power. Mr. McCullough, just one question. So the region recently did their OP review. Was there any kind of takeaways the town can take, any kind of pratfalls we can avoid, anything that they learned that we might be looking for that we weren't looking for previously?
My hope is, through to you, Mr. Chair, my hope is that a lot of the big components and arguments were settled through there. But with any large project like this, where we see lots of stakeholders with differing opinions, inevitably there's going to be speed bumps along the way that we have to try to deal with. And so hopefully the big decisions have been dealt with through the region stuff, but I think we do have our work cut out for us as we move forward. So hopefully, and I think the other piece to it was there was some early discussion papers that, the feedback we got from regional staff was they were a bit long, and that's why we're hoping to shorten some things up so that we can focus some of the discussion and really hear what people have to say.
Great, appreciate that answer. Okay, so we're going to move on past questions, no more from committee. We're now going to open the public portion of today's meeting. I'm going to start online. Clerk, is anyone online? Seeing a shaking of head, that's no. So opening up to the gallery now. If any of you would like to speak, please come on up, sign your name, and introduce yourself at the microphone. Oh, don't be shy, Mr. Glass. Come on, get the ball rolling.
Just the button?
You're good.
All right, the clock is just, sorry. Before he left office in 2018, I asked former Mayor Parrish what optimal population for Ajax would be given our size, and he told me 145,000. This is important. It ties into the rest of my presentation. I appreciate the great work, accomplishments, and challenges that this committee, this council and senior staff have had to face over the last number of years. And I rise to share a number of examples of concern from the most recent draft of the 2022 plan. For example, on page 2, you set a goal to add 11,300 residential units by 2031, which was a very lofty 30% increase, but only 4 months later in February 2023, this council increased the target to 17,000, which was a 50% increase above the earlier 30% increase. The plan all repeatedly speaks about maintaining fiscal responsibility, but we all know how much budgets and taxes have grown. How are residents supposed to have faith in said plans when they can be changed so quickly? Bluntly, the purpose of my presentation is I believe that intensification is putting the very soul of Ajax at risk. Given that today's meeting is the launch of our new official plan, I would like to ask why the process isn't starting with a presentation of the results to date. Page 181 of the plan states, every review of the plan shall provide an assessment of the degree to which the objectives have been met. Where is that assessment? More and more, the town's plans and communications sound like overly optimistic collection of glittering generalities meant to sway residents while critical decisions happen behind closed doors. It just seems like growth at any cost. Ajax is already a vibrant community, and we don't need explosive growth to change this. Residents are increasingly not optimistic about our future, and intensification is at the root of this frustration. Ajax has a fixed boundary of only 67 square kilometers and a population of 74 people per square kilometer, which is by far the largest in Durham. But by 2051, as your own chart said, the density will grow by 51% to almost 3,000 people per square kilometer. If anyone thinks that traffic, maintenance, and taxes are a problem now, just wait until you have 51% more density. And what about things like jobs, services, and housing? On page 5, it states that we presently have 1 job for every 3.5 residents, but by 2031, this will change to 1 job for every 2 residents. How does the town expect to grow employment by this much? Page 62 says, the new residential areas must allow for a variety of land uses for things like schools, but as this council has consistently said, there isn't the land available for traditional schools near all the proposed new development. Page 25 strives to achieve a 25% affordable housing goal with all the new development. Not only isn't this coming close to happening, but in less than 6 months, over 100 longtime residents could lose their affordable housing to make room for new development. And if this happens, more are sure to follow. Make no mistakes, gaps like these are changing the very soul of our community. And doing something new is the easiest part because it's often paid for by other levels of government. But the ongoing legacy cost of doing so many things is rarely talked about, and these costs always fall on the taxpayer. Also, as we saw with the $20 million Hunt Street request, funding from other levels of government is never guaranteed. I hope you can see that Ajax is taking on more and more risk as a result of all these changes. While other levels of government may be pushing intensification, Ajax must control Ajax's future. We are responsible for implementing zoning bylaws, and we are responsible for this official plan. Local autonomy must be maintained, and your role must be more than cutting red tape. In conclusion, if you could just give me another minute, I swear I'm wrapping up. On page 7 of the Lodge document and in the presentation today, you asked the question, what do you want the town to look like in 2051? Well, let me tell you what I'd like to see. Growth that is measured and sustainable, befitting our size. A place where our children don't need to be bused to other neighborhoods to go to school, or where our skyline isn't littered with 50-story buildings like Mississauga. Our town by the lake must focus on delivering basic municipal services in a cost-effective manner rather than growth interests outside of Ajax. Intensifying to 200,000 people puts everything we hold at risk about Ajax. Residents' patience is eroding due to the side effects of the current intensify or die mindset, and the next official plan of Ajax must represent resident interests, and I call on each of you to make this a reality going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Mr. McCullough, there was a few questions asked. Just want to know if you can address those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think most of them were comments, but I will highlight that we are required by the provincial planning statement to plan for the next 20 to 30 years and the projected population. So historically, we were guided by the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and that document was merged into the new provincial planning statement. And now moving forward, we have to use Ministry of Finance projections to figure out how we're going to achieve these growth targets. So we are mandated by the province to achieve these. And I agree that there are going to be challenges along the way, like Mr. Glass mentioned, things like schools, and that may require us to think differently about how those schools are structured in some of these new communities. But those are questions that we hope to tackle through this review and discuss with our agencies and partners and the community to see how we move forward.
Thank you very much.
I will, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll also add one other thing. The assessments that Mr. Glass mentioned, that's part of phase 1, the discussion, or the initial assessment of all of our work. So that's part of phase 1, and that comes as we get started. So that's the work that will start, and that's where the assessment will be completed. So just wanted to highlight on that one as well.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Opening up to other members of the public. Any other members of the public wish to speak towards the beginning of our official plan process? Going once? Oh, we have someone up. Yes. We're past that, Councilor Henry, but when the report comes up, you can ask a question then. How about that? And your name, please.
My name is Paula Greaves.
Great.
And I'm not nearly as prepared as the previous speaker, and that's simply because I only just found out about this this entire project. And I happen to live in the area of what will be the extended GO station plan. My immediate concern is, why is it that those of us who will be directly impacted by these plans are not being reached out to, rather than this holistic idea of reaching out to the people of Ajax? This is not the first time that I have seen this. My Councillor Rob knows me very well, in that we had a situation where they broke our wall onto Westney without any consultation from those of us who were impacted, and that has caused us to have more noise on our street, as well as people having access to the area, and we are now getting more break-ins than that we've ever had before. So my immediate concern is, how is it that those of us who are going to be impacted by this get to know about it before all of these decisions are being made? Because it really feels to me as though bylaws are being unilaterally changed and we are just not consulted. I am very upset about the fact that we're going to be having two 60-floor buildings here near the beginning of this whole project. And when I looked at the survey last night, and I see some of the ideas that are being put forward that I'm to choose from, none of which I'm particularly pleased about, it seems as though, once again, the decisions have already been made. And it just isn't right. You know, if I wanted to live in a high-density area, I would have stayed in Toronto. That's not why I'm out here. And I've been here for over 20 years, and I put quite a lot of my, you know, my sweat, tears, and so on to build Ajax, including being on one of your committees. I'm just very upset about it, and I really hope that you take the time to really reach out to us in a meaningful way before decisions are actually made, and we aren't just a checklist for things that have already been decided behind closed doors. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McLarty, would you be able to share the communication plan regarding the OP and different public consultations? Like, how is the town prepared to inform residents of various meetings?
Through the chair, there has been an appendix to this document today that outlines the strategy. Our IMO page is up currently, and I'll make sure that that plan is directly posted on our IMO page so people can review it. Recently, we conducted older adults transportation plan where we asked people to contact us as well if they would like to be involved, and we would take the time, we would find people that they could meet with, or we would provide the documentation. We're open to doing that. We're open to focus groups. We're open to mini groups. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to expand and just target it a little bit more depending on the area. We're open to that.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your comments. Anybody else from the gallery wish to speak? Please.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the timeline of the plan, and it's showing basically a ministry approval after 2028. So does that mean anything you guys discuss in the next 4 years, nothing starts until 2028? Is that, am I reading that right? It sounds very bureaucratic here, what we're working on.
Mr. McCullough, you're asking on timelines of when the final kind of process. So can you give us, as close as you can, the timeline, Mr. McCullough?
So through the chair, so yeah, it depends on the piece. I think you're correct that until the ministry approves the updates, that those new policies won't be in effect. I think that's what you're getting at. So that is correct, and it's just going to take us a couple of years to go through this consultation process to develop the policies and get to a point where we're in a position to share that with the minister.
Okay. Well, I agree, like planning is essence to any successful project. It just seems it's excessive. Other than that, for any item in the plan that gets executed at some point going forward, who's going to pay? So is it going to be the residents? Is there any funding coming from regions? Is there any funding coming from provincial? Any funding coming from federal? Or is everything on the residents' backs?
Mr. McCullough, can you review funding as much as you know?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So most funding for new development comes from development charges. So there's an exercise at looking at all the new infrastructure requirements, and that is dealt with through the development charges background study. And then we've got other tools that we can use to collect funding for specific reasons. So the town has long had a parkland dedication bylaw where we collect either land or money for those needs. There's also a community benefits charge bylaw that collects additional funds for things like public art and other community strategies. There's development charges for schools that go directly to the school board to plan for new schools. And then finally, there's the funding from the federal government that we received from the Housing Accelerator Fund. The province also has a Building Faster fund that they released a couple of years ago, where if we meet or if we're successful in achieving the targets that they've set, that we can get some money. So we were successful in our first year, but of course, with the market being what it is right now, it's been more challenging to meet our targets.
So the major proportion of that, is it the development charges? You mentioned that one first, is that?
I believe so, yes. Like the bulk of it will come from
Yes.
DCs.
Okay. And of course, that's the one that the provincial government in the past few years has reduced the opportunity of municipalities to collect funding from that source. Is that correct?
Until occupancy, I believe. On high density, according to the mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Going once, twice. Thank you to all members of the public who addressed the committee. We will now go into the report, PDS 2025-20. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? We'll get to the report and then you can ask a question from there. So I see Mayor Collier, I see Councillor Tyler Morin. I'm going to read the therefore, so that the report entitled Ajax Official Plan Review Launch be received for information, that any comments received during the special meeting, the official plan review process be referred to staff for consideration, that staff be authorized to launch the consultation strategy such as the release of surveys, scheduling consultation meetings, and this creation of an Indigenous advisory group specifically for the original official plan review, and for that a copy of this report be forwarded to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Region of Durham, Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority, Toronto Region Conservation Authority, school boards, and public agencies. Councillor Henry, you had a comment or question first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a quick question with regards to Mr. Glass's presentation to Sean McCullough. And the question is, what if we, as a council, just say, we're not going to follow what the province is saying and we don't want to do this? What if?
Mr. McCullough, can we go to planning jail? Is that a thing?
What happens?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we've long heard about planning jail, and we haven't seen anything happen yet, but I can say that the minister can step in and make decisions on our behalf.
So either we cooperate and try to work within the time frame or within the structure that has been given to us, and we have a say in it, or we rebel and they take over. Is that the choices I'm hearing? Yes.
Essentially, that's correct.
Excellent. Okay. Just wanted to put that out there so that folks understand what we're working with, so that they understand why we're moving the way we are and trying to do the best we can within what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Mr. McCullough. And I just want to expand on, I think it was Mr. Baker's question about timeline. So if the province is not expected to approve this till 2027, and we know Envision Durham, for instance, the regional official plan took 18 months for them to approve. What do we do in the interim? I know what we do, but I want you to explain what happens in the interim, even though we already recognize all the things we're going to do through this official plan review process. How do we deal with them if projects come to us before provincial approval in 2027?
Yeah, so through the chair to Mayor Collier, so as we've seen in the past, well, forever, there's an option that individual official plan amendments can be put forward, and council would make a decision at that time to decide whether or not it conforms to the new provincial planning statement and all of the other planning documents and achieve the outcome that way.
Okay.
We are hoping with the GO Station secondary plan, that one was strategically brought forward and presented to HAF to try to get that one done faster because we think there's a lot of good opportunity there and obviously a lot of interest in the area.
And I asked this also, another resident, the lady had mentioned about the 62-story buildings that we've already approved the mayor's directive at the transit station, and this is similar. The regional official plan was approved 2+ years ago. It took 18 months for the province to approve it. In the meantime, through mayor's directives, we as a council were able to move some of these approvals forward. And really, I feel that's what we'll do in the interim. If we identify those at the town level as the way we want things, well, as the future council, I guess, because not much is going to happen between now and the election next year, I don't think. But going forward, they will just have that tool to be able to do things as they go forward, pending the approval from the province, just like we did with Envision Durham.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. There's an election next year? Seeing no other questions by committee, we will start the vote. And that passes. Thank you, committee. I see no presentation reports. Last item is adjournment. Moved by Councillor Bauer, seconded by Mayor Collier, though no seconders needed. We'll call the vote. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Welcome back.